Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Ben Bateman.
And I'm Andrew Ghai.
And we are
the Action Guys.
Today, we are here on the show to talk to you guys about the definitive ranking of every single theatrically released Spider-Man film. Neither of us have seen the brand new Into the Spider-Verse. I'm just going to be honest with you guys right now.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, but we've heard nothing but great things from every single person we've talked to. We've heard it's the best Spider-Man movie ever made. So we figured
we would kind of, and we both have a rule that when a brand new movie comes out, we always wait at least 6 months to kind of rank it in the context of the other ones. Like, you can have your initial opinion, but it's not really good to see something come out, that initial reaction, and say it's the greatest this.
We did Mad Max Fury Road on our other show, Action Movie Anatomy, and we covered it like a few days later, and I was like, this is the greatest action movie ever made. Now, it still might be one of the greatest, but to say that hands down, you got to give it a little time,
right?
You know?
You had a little bit of new car.
I was very excited.
You're high off the smells. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the definitive ranking of the previous 6 Spider-Man films released in theaters today on the Action Guys, where we talk about action movies and action things, and that's what we're doing today. So stay tuned, guys. We are going to talk about every single Spider-Man movie to hit theaters, the best, the worst, and a couple sweet, sweet games that we have come up with. We'll see you guys in just a second.
This is also fascinating. I am not a comic book aficionado.
Yeah.
You have 6,000 comic books back home.
1 or 2, yes.
Yeah, and I've read maybe less than 10 in my life.
Sure. That's why we're good at the opposite sides of this.
Well, that's what I mean. I think this is why it's important that we're both here, because you can give the things about like what Peter Parker and Spider-Man are really supposed to be like, the way that they look and the way that they move and fight in the comics. And for me, it's going to be from just a viewer standpoint, a person that loves movies and superhero movies, being like, yeah, this worked and this didn't work for me, just based off of like what is aesthetically pleasing, I guess.
For sure. And so I think where we're going to start today, guys, is in every episode, for those of you that are kind of new to the show, don't know what we do here, this is the Action Guys. So Drew and I had another show called Action Movie Anatomy that we do on the Popcorn Talk Network. It's one movie for 1 hour every week. This show, we sort of take an idea inspired by something going on that's in a genre we like, talk about it for 30 to an hour. Today, that idea is that the best Spider-Man films have all been released in the last 24 months. They've been making Spider-Man movies since 2002, but the best have all come out in the last 2 years. And why is that?
I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't. I mean, the world that has been created by the Avengers and the way that Spider-Man fits into it, he fits so perfectly into Civil War. Like, when he comes into it, Infinity War, he has some of the best moments. And then, obviously, Homecoming, finally getting a Spider-Man movie. Because the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, or whatever you want to call it, the two offs, was such an interesting time. It was like we weren't ready for it. We didn't need another Spider-Man movie, or us as an audience just weren't willing to accept one, because I didn't think he was bad.
No, I mean, we're going to kind of get into all that as we get into each movie and each of the Spider-Man. But yeah, definitely. I mean, your point is really sound there, which is that is the definition of there's artistic concept, which is the MCU, and even like artistic concept meets licensing and rights, which is what Homecoming is. The Amazing Spider-Man was just like Sony had the rights to Spider-Man, and they figured they could make a bunch of money if they made more Spider-Man movies. Yeah. Even though it was in the middle of the MCU, they hadn't quite figured out yet that we're going to do way better if we attach ourselves to this much, much better franchise. So they made these movies, and Andrew Garfield just kind of got lost. He's unfortunately just forgotten.
It's so sad, because he's like, Andrew Garfield isn't a bad actor. Like, I know we love him in The Social Network. Like, we both adore that film. It's a great movie, and I think he's a great Spider-Man. So what is it about these three that's so great? And I think for me personally, when I look at Spider-Man, I think that the things that are the most important are how they're Peter Parker. Yeah. Right? And how they are Spider-Man, or who they are when they're Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And then, like, in the comics, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like this explosive way of fighting that he has. And like, again, I don't know, this is just based off what I've
jumps
heard.
Around all the time.
Yeah, and there's like the way that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man moved was like that, but the way that Andrew Garfield actually fought was like much more
springy kind of.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the word to use, but that's one of the things I'd heard from my buddies who's like a big comic book fan. He was like, I think Tobey Maguire had the best Peter Parker, but Andrew Garfield was the best fighting Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think Tom Holland in these three films, because we are talking about Homecoming, Infinity War, Civil War. Yeah. Those being the best Spider-Man moments. Why do you think it is?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think probably starting with the movie we haven't seen, just quickly to breeze over it.
Right.
And what we do know about it is Drew and I have both seen some of the media clips that they give out to media members, so little scenes we get to watch. We know all about the movie, obviously. At Comic-Con this last summer, I got to do a little bit of press for it. Just about everybody at Collider, AfterBuzz, Screen Junkies that we know have seen it now. So we've had a lot of conversations about it. We're very aware of the movie. It's not sort of new to us. We just didn't, unfortunately, get to hit the press screenings. We were both out of town for them. And so I've heard that the animation is innovative and that the approach to the character is very magical. That's just an incredible movie. Now, beyond that, the Tom Holland stuff, Civil War, Infinity War, and Homecoming, I think it's that it really effectively appeals to the kid in you.
Yeah.
That's where I think Homecoming found its kind of Tom Holland Spider-Man found its groove there. Like, think about it. Superheroes as a concept, we take very seriously now. You look at a movie like The Dark Knight, characters like the Joker, that performance. You think about the stakes in Infinity War, you tear up. You get so excited in these movies now. They're so self-serious.
Yes.
They're incredible.
I mean, we didn't even talk about the Endgame trailer, which is like where this stemmed from, or like some of this conversation stemmed from, which is just like, because Spider-Man's not in it, and you're going to miss him so much. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
But yeah, I think what it is that when you're a little kid, when your brain's not fully formed, you're an adolescent, you haven't been an adult, you haven't even been in like an adult situation, you've never gone on a date with a girl, whatever. There's this idea of what being a strong grown-up is.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man gets to be a kid who is a grown-up. He's forced to be a grown-up, and he gets to be strong, and he gets to be like all of it. Like the great power comes great responsibility. Tom Holland seems like a teenager. He seems like the Spider-Man that made you inspired to be Spider-Man when you were a kid.
Yeah, I mean, there's this great theme kind of throughout the first two franchises or whatever whatever you want to call them in the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield, where it's like this balance of power. And you do get a lot of it in Infinity War and Homecoming, but I completely agree. It's because you do want him to take it seriously, but also like if you got that suit, like when he gets the suit in Homecoming, you yourself feel like you got the suit. You're like,
so exciting.
I would do all these things.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
So, okay, before we get into our full discussion, because we are going to do a couple things today, guys. Coming up on the show, we are going to talk about our definitive ranking of each of the Spider-Man films, best to worst, not including Spider-Verse. We're going to rank all of the Spider-Man villains that we think are best. So we're going to kind of just establish between the two of us who we think the best several are, and we are going to have a couple other sweet conversations that we discussed. We're going to play Mary. Just kidding. I'm not going to even make that joke. I'll save that joke.
Save it for a different show and a different lifetime.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll try to be not that offensive today. So talking quickly about Homecoming, Civil War, and Infinity War, because these are the three. Well, I should actually really say Civil War and Infinity War are the two appearances that are not like Spider-Man movies.
Right.
Holland first shows up in Civil War, and a lot of people felt like he stole the show. He was the best part of the whole movie, right?
He's pretty fantastic in that. Like, my favorite moment actually is when he's fighting, and he's fighting Falcon and Bucky.
Yeah.
And he catches both of them. And he's like, whoa, you got a metal arm? And they're looking at him like, holy shit, this kid is fighting off both of us, right?
He's like a little teenager.
This is like Bucky is like one of the strongest people out there, and he's just holding his. Like, I love that, and the fact that he also gives Captain America a run for his money.
He takes a shield.
Yeah, and he's like, sorry.
Yeah,
it.
I love that later. Iron Man's like, if Cap wanted to lay out, he could have.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, again, it is about appealing to the kid in you. It's the thing where it's just. Wouldn't that be you? Could you imagine if like superheroes called you to battle and you're like, you have to fight half of them? You'd be like,
coolest thing in the world.
Coolest thing ever. Terrified.
And I thought, I mean, they do such a good job then of weaving that story back around in Homecoming with Happy. It's so funny. It's just great.
And the father-son relationship between him and Stark, he's like, I'm not hugging you, I'm not there yet. I'm just getting in the door. Like, but just the adoration he has for him.
And also after he takes the suit and he comes home and to May, I lost the Stark internship. And you know what he's really saying?
Yeah.
That movie kills me.
And the end.
Yeah.
I love the end where it's like, you can come out here and announce you're Spider-Man. There's a suit. There's press people waiting and all that. He's like, this is a test. This is a test, and I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna fail the test. And he leaves, and then of course,
no, the test, right? Oh yeah.
Gwyneth comes out. She's like, where the hell is he?
Yeah. Oh, that's when he proposes to her.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. So good. I love them. So now let's talk about quickly Infinity War.
I'm just thinking about the Endgame trailer and so Infinity War. I mean, Do you want to start this off, or do you want me to? Because like it is so emotional, man.
All of it.
All of it.
From
like,
the minute that he enters the movie, all his stuff in the middle.
The look that he gets when he realizes he's an Avenger and he's stuck on the ship. It's one of my favorite parts in the entire Marvel franchise is that look of once he realizes he's an Avenger and then he's like, oh shit, I'm an Avenger. Yeah, and I'm on a ship and I'm probably not going to come back.
Being an Avenger means you die for the mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just became an Avenger on the mission I'm going to die on most likely.
And the humor too, I'm unclear on who this is. Is he your ward? There's just so much. I just got to see.
Oh, we're using our fake names.
Yeah. I'm Spider-Man. Yeah. I got to see the Collider Q&A with the Russo brothers.
You know what?
While you were gone.
The funniest thing is for the first day you told me, I thought it was Endgame. I thought you were going to go watch Endgame with the Russo brothers early. And I was like,
you would have just, if I was you, I would have flown back.
I legitimately was like, can I do something about my trip? So I thought that for like 2 days. And then I realized in my head, I was like, that's impossible.
There's no way. Yeah,
there's no way. I just refused to believe it. And then, of course, I saw it. Anyway,
but
amazing.
Oh, it was great. Yeah. And getting to hear them talk about it and seeing it again on the big screen. I love Infinity War like on a ludicrous level now. It's like that movie has come around for me where I watch it and it makes me feel like a little kid watch it. Like it literally feels like when I would buy the comic books as a little kid and I would read these adventures and I would be like, this is all these characters together and these big like universe altering events. Like they somehow managed to build this world and then show you that on the screen and have it feel just like the comic book.
And it feels just like it did 20 years ago.
Which is crazy.
What's funny for me is like you have this like kind of beautiful poetic memory of like opening and reading comic books. For me, it's like sitting down in the theater before Batman Forever.
Yeah, yeah.
And like how excited I was because I loved Batman so much.
Somehow believing it was a good movie when you walked out.
I literally lied to myself about Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I remember walking out with Batman and Robin with my sister Sandra, and you could just tell that she was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, that was amazing.
The way that Bane looks in Batman and Robin is like, it looks like Marvel making fun of the DCEU in an SNL sketch. Yeah. It looks like they'd be like, this is what DC does it.
Bane smash. So dumb.
Yeah.
And that's anyway, we don't even talk about that.
But yeah, I think that Peter in Infinity War is really wonderful. I love that look. I love the Iron Spider outfit. I love
oh my God.
when he's fighting Thanos, magic of the kick. Like all that stuff is so cool.
I like in the because we saw it together one of the times, and I just remember every time anything would happen with the Iron Spider,
I
would just like look over, it's like you see like when it catches like every single thing, and then also like, hey, you guys see that really old movie Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
You know, and then of course, what is it? It's
Aliens in that one,
in Infinity War, yeah.
So I think his appearances there just steal the show, and the fact that all that together with Homecoming and now Spider-Verse, the last 24 months have just owned Spider-Man. Like it's just not even the rest. We're gonna get to the rest of this list, and I like a lot of the older Spider-Man movies.
I do too.
We're gonna talk about kind of why. So let's talk about each of the Spider-Man really quickly.
His death is the saddest in the whole movie,
right? In Infinity War?
Yeah. By a mile.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
I do think that if in the script, Groot, when he says "I am Groot" to Rocket, it's written "Dad."
Yeah.
I think that if the audience knew that, they might get more emotional there because it's such a.
I know, it's like, how do you throw in a subtitle for something that hasn't been subtitled for like 3 movies?
Yeah.
Because then it would feel like it would, but God, yeah.
I can't remember if that's out there or if that's just something we know because of people
our
we know that worked on it.
in the business.
But I think that's out there. So that we kind of talked about Holland a little bit. I mean, he really came out of nowhere. He had been the son in The Impossible a couple years earlier.
Do you agree that Garfield's a better Spider-Man and that Tobey Maguire is a better Peter Parker, but then Tom Holland's just a better both?
Going back, so I think let's jump to one of those two. I think we can start with Tobey.
Okay.
I hate Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
I can't stand him, dude.
I've when you go back with the revisionist history. Like I feel like there is revisionist history now that we liked him enough because he was in the early phase, but he first of all doesn't really look like the age he's supposed to be.
No,
he looks like an adult that's playing a kid,
and he's just so whiny.
Yeah, he's just kind of lame.
He is. He's totally lame, and it's like you get that Peter Parker's supposed to be kind of a nerd, and that's the problem with Andrew Garfield. He's too cool in the second one. Yeah. He like looks too cool, and he looks too good, and he like rides a skateboard, and it's like that guy's cooler than I was in high school.
Yeah,
you can't just make him be a nerd because you say he's a nerd.
There's a thing that happened. So classically, Spider-Man, one of the early characters, and like all those old Spider-Man stories, like a lot of the stuff, like Uncle Ben getting shot by the guy and all that. that's all very classic Spider-Man, and there's a bunch of famous stories that we've seen over the years. But there was two different eras: the late '80s, early '90s Spider-Man, when comic books got really popular. Todd McFarlane took over Spider-Man before he created Spawn, so he created Venom within that run.
Got it.
And Carnage. And Spider-Man has this kind of dark, very cool angle. And then the next sort of
Is that dark, cool angle what they screwed up in the Tobey Maguire ones where they made him all goth and stuff with the Venom? That is unwatchably bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
A little bit, but it's not that extreme. It's just, so there's that, and then there's this comic book that came out around the turn of the century called Ultimate Spider-Man, where Marvel introduced this new line called the Ultimate Universe, and it was basically like starting it over with this kind of younger, fresher, a little bit like more cartoony, edgy sort of, and that's what a lot of Amazing Spider-Man is based on, is that universe.
Okay.
So that's sort of where you try to get that younger, like much more like hip, up-to-date feel.
Peter Parker.
Yeah, and then there's the stuff with Miles Morales that you see in Spider-Verse with new characters, and that's kind of a whole other era that I didn't really get to read much of. But that's why Andrew Garfield feels like that. I think with Tobey Maguire, though, he was pretty famous at that point.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna. So go ahead.
You know, he had been in, if I recall, both like Wonder Boys and the Cider House Rules. Does that sound right?
Yes, he was definitely in both of those already.
And that's like late '90s. Cider House Rules, I think, is '99. I want to say Wonder Boys might be like 2000-ish. He was like Seabiscuit, I think.
He was not Seabiscuit. Seabiscuit is a horse. He was the trainer, the jockey.
I think that's maybe the year after Seabiscuit's 03, I want to say.
No. He was Seabiscuit.
He played the horse.
Pleasantville, Fear and Loathing. He was the hitchhiker they pick up.
So he's one of these guys
Empire Records.
He had been in a bunch of stuff. He was known. He was a face. He was young enough. But somehow he like books this role, and you like Sam Raimi. You have to think like the reason that's he gets it is because like Sam Raimi has some vision for this.
Yeah,
and so I'm not a big fan of him. Those movies are pretty good, and we'll get to where
probably just like he saw him in Pleasantville and was like, I want that guy to be Peter Parker, and I can turn him into Spider-Man.
I think with Andrew Garfield, the reason that Andrew Garfield works in those movies, the reason that like there's a lot of fondness is because his chemistry with Emma Stone is really strong.
It is really nice.
And that's kind of what makes the movie good.
and also, Rhys Ifans as Kurt Connors is really good.
It's a good villain.
The relationship between him and his dad, and like Peter goes and sees him, and it's like the whole like arm, like he's missing an arm. That's why he's doing everything. Andrew Garfield's a good actor. Yeah. Like I was watching it, I truly enjoyed him. It's just the problem I think I had when watching it again is like put glasses on him and say that he looks like his dad, and now he's a nerd, and it's just like there was like that disconnect for me where I'm just like, Andrew Garfield is too pretty of a man and too cool and smart in this world to be the nerd that they're trying to sell me. They're trying to sell me that the whole time, and I'm like, just don't.
I think the idea they had was like Wardo is enough of a, he gets sort of duped and he doesn't seem very cool in The Social Network. He seems like kind of like he's like
the ass end of the joke.
A little bit. I think they were like, we can use that energy and we can make that Peter Parker, and it works for what it is, but it's not as effective. It's not the best representation of the character, which is why I think we like Holland so much.
Because he is that nerdy kid.
He's little.
Yeah.
He's nerdy. He's got a crush on a girl. His best friend is Ned.
Yeah, and he's got such a great like nervous energy about him. He's 100% believable as that character, and in such a loving way. Because the other thing too about Tobey Maguire was, like you said, I just don't really like Tobey Maguire. Like not really anyone does. Yeah. And that's the problem, is you need to have someone who's like super lovable and like, you know, like take Tom Holland and like the lip sync battle and him doing like Umbrella and all that shit. It's like that you see that after the movie, but in the movie you really believe and love him as this kind of helpless nerdy kid.
And I really think, you know, both Holland and Garfield. I mean, Holland virtually came out of nowhere. He had been working, but he was somebody when he was cast that we didn't know who he was. Garfield had just been Social Network. That was the reason that he got that role, and everybody remembered him from that. But Tobey was just someone we knew. He had been in a bunch of movies already.
Yeah, it's like if Lord of the Rings was made now, would Elijah Wood be the best choice, or was it just because he was as famous as he was when it happened?
Yeah,
and so like that ended up working out. I think obviously, I think he was a great Frodo.
Yeah,
but with Tobey Maguire, I think it just didn't really work out as well. He wasn't horrible.
Yeah,
he has good moments, and again, I think like Defoe and Franco and the people around him make it. What do you think about Kirsten Dunst?
I just burped in the mic, guys.
Yeah, that's all right. We heard it.
She's okay. I mean, the upside down kiss is a good moment. It's memorable.
Yeah.
It's a memorable moment. MTV Best Kiss winner, Tobey Maguire.
Oh, Satan's Alley.
So good. That's where we're dating ourselves. That's not going to air till January. Guys, this is probably something you should know. You're hearing this today on Friday, the, what is today? 14th?
14th, yep.
14th of December. So I'm going to Hong Kong for 2 weeks at the end of the year.
Shishi.
Yeah, shay. And I'll be gone, and I just have to travel for work a lot. So, and Drew was just in Tokyo, so we just had this whole smorgasbord of episodes we have to pre-tape. So you're hearing this today, but some of the episodes you're going to hear in the coming weeks will be taped before this, shortly after
Every
this.
single one essentially will be pre-taped.
Yeah, in the next year we'll be back to a regular schedule, but it's just it is what it is. So let's talk a little bit about the villains, because you alluded right now to Defoe.
Yes.
So each movie we're just going to talk about the villains. Okay. And then I think we can kind of rank them. So you have Homecoming, you have the Vulture.
Gun to my head, Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, I will always get those mixed up.
Which villains are which?
I always get it mixed up.
Well, I think it's Shocker and the Rhino in Amazing 2.
Yes.
And it's Sandman and Venom in...
Yes.
In Spider-Man 3.
Topher Grace, right?
Yeah. And so you have Homecoming, you have...
David Duke himself.
You have a version of the Shocker. He's like not really. He calls himself the Shocker.
Who's that? And Homecoming. Gotcha.
It's what the hell's his name? Logan Marshall Green.
Yeah.
Right. You're the Shocker now. He tosses it to Bookie Woodbine.
Shocker now.
You've got the Vulture.
Yes.
Spider-Man 2, you have Doc Ock. Is there a second villain in Spider-Man 2?
No.
Amazing Spider-Man, you have the Lizard, just the Lizard, right?
Yes.
Spider-Man 1, it's you have Defoe as the Green Goblin. I think it's just him.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3, and there's the Hobgoblin.
The Hobgoblin, which is
three
Frank
villains.
Crow. Yep.
Right.
That's and Venom and what's his name again? Electro? Or what's this?
Electro. Jamie Foxx is Electro. Right. And Paul Giamatti is the Rhino.
See, I'm even doing it right now.
Yeah.
I'm mixing them up. Electro and the Rhino are in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Right.
Who are your top three?
I think without God, I had it figured out a second ago, but then I forgot about the Vulture, who is so good.
So sweet.
It just feels like a different world, though, the Vulture. Like, it feels like it's not even fair to compare, because it's like, of course, but then, the MCU does have crappy villains sometimes. Like, the whole Thor franchise is kind of riddled with them.
There's been a running theme for a long time of the villain is the dark version of the hero. So, right, like that the Ironmonger is just the mirror version, right? Yellow Jacket is just the mirror version. Like they did a lot of that for a very long time.
Yeah, Yellow Jacket.
Loki is just the mirror version of Thor.
I think for me, it's got to be Kirk Connors, the Lizard.
Yeah, he's a top three for you.
Yeah,
cool.
Okay. I really love him. I really do. And like going back and watching it again so recently, I just like he's great and he's gentle.
Yeah.
Before his transformation, I like that. God, it's so hard. You have to throw the Vulture in because Keaton's just so great in Homecoming, and then it's literally a coin toss between Defoe and Doc Ock, and I think I actually have to give the nod to Defoe because even though I love Molina as Doc Ock, and I've probably seen Spider-Man 2 the most, Defoe was actually kind of scary as like a kid, and his laugh and Peter Parker.
Think fast.
Yeah, right? just everything, and like in the way he dies too is like actually like intense.
Yeah,
like having the
impaled by his own glider.
Yeah. So.
Which is the full word for word answer you need to use for that question in the Schmoedown game, and if you say it any other way, you'll get it wrong.
What is it? Just the glider?
Impaled by his own glider.
Impaled by his own glider. And you have 15 seconds to type that out.
It'll autocorrect you if you say impaled, but you have to have one of the words.
Right.
So stupid.
How do you feel about that? What is your ranking?
Schmoedown app?
No.
Oh.
This isn't about how good you are at trivia, Ben.
My favorite villain is Keaton, far and away. Not even close.
He's just so like. Let's talk about why.
I think it's the scene in the car is excellent.
Yep.
It's great because it blends the teenage and meeting your girl's father world
perfectly.
He's doing it to protect his family, but he's also kind of crazy. Keaton's awesome. He's old, which I like.
Yeah, I love grizzled Keaton. I love the "I'll kill you and everyone you love." Like, I love that line. I told you this when we covered it or talked about it recently. I love that he pulls the gun out and rests it on the seat.
Yeah.
Like, it's so trashy and so, like, lame macho dad in your face.
Yeah.
That's fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, he can break the gun. He can catch the gun. Like, a gun isn't, you know what I mean? Like,
he's got the spider sense. You try to pull that trigger.
I feel like even Keaton knows that it's not even, like that imposing or something.
But he's just trying to.
But he's just
put
trying.
his dick on the table.
That's exactly what I mean.
Little bit.
That's what I love about it is he's just trying. And then I honestly believe that the turn, the reveal of him being her dad.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming.
Me neither. It's a great reveal.
It's a really great reveal.
Yeah, she's kind of dark skinned a little bit, so you miss it.
Yep.
It doesn't really. And then in the car, like
the house is so nice. You don't think it's like a scrapper dude.
yeah, it makes sense. All of a sudden, he's a family man. He's
Right.
rich, of course.
Yeah.
And he's always out of town.
Yep.
And I love that in the car as he's putting it together. That's a great scene. I mean, so he's my favorite. I think my second favorite is Molina. I'm just a gigantic Alfred Molina fan.
He's so good.
That's Doc Ock in the second one.
Yeah, he really is.
He's like relatable. He's a great actor. He's like, and one of our good friends, Johnny Cruz, was on a show on El Matador for a while called, what the hell was it called again? Was it Soccer Show?
I can't remember.
I
know. I know.
My friend Christina was on it with him. I just can't remember the name of the show now.
Ochoa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matador. That was
No.
The show was called Matador. The network was El Rey. That's
yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
That's right. And he just would say the best things about Molina. He's like the coolest,
nicest, professional.
Makes sense too. I mean, he seems that way, and we love him obviously for Boogie Nights.
Like his scene in Boogie Nights is one of the greatest acting performances ever.
Yeah, he's just a great actor.
Come on, you puppies!
I love him, and then I think my third, I would go with Dafoe.
So it's basically the same list. It's just not Kirk Connors because mine's a toss up between those. I love Connors though. He's so good, and I actually think my favorite villains are actually the Lizard, the Sandman, and Venom, like in the Spider-Man universe.
Well, I also think one thing that's super interesting about superhero villains, we talked about this a little the other night when we were coming up with this idea, is that like they like to take someone who's relevant or significant for being dramatic in something and then cast them as one of these villains. Like this is the thing that these tentpole movies do because they think like, okay, there's credibility, they have the chops. So Thomas Hayden Church as the Sandman had literally just been because he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Sideways.
Right, and the same thing with Giamatti. Like he's like at the top of his game.
Yeah.
When that movie comes, I know they're different, but
but he's like ripping stuff off, and then I was going to say the other one is Whiplash. When Mickey Rourke has us come back with The Wrestler, they give him Whiplash right away. It's like, what can we do to take the Oscar momentum and like put it in one of these big commercial movies to give credibility? And that happens a lot.
It's just like, but it's not that they do a bad job.
No.
But and you know that it's impossible to say no.
It's like sort of manufactured.
Yes.
It's like what it is like you get a lot of acclaim that people making the movies are getting offers like across their table. Like you should use this guy. You should cast this guy.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, I saw Sideways. Hayden Church was great. Okay, I could get into that.
I could see him as the Sandman.
He could wear this shirt.
I could see Paul Giamatti as the Rhino. I could see Jamie Foxx as Electro. Like all these things because Jamie Foxx is the same thing, right? Like he's coming down a little bit from his huge moment, but he's still relevant enough.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Okay, so let's get in and actually ranking the movies, and I think we can just go without saying that the number one movie is Homecoming for us.
We're both very, very, very into Homecoming. That's number one. I think, and this is a collective ranking. We both like kind of agree. Homecoming is just the best one.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It just for all the reasons that we've talked about for this episode so far, it just seems far and away the best. And also, I do kind of love the Mary Jane reveal at the end.
Yeah, should we say the worst one now? Because I think most people probably know it.
Yeah.
It's Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 3. I know. It's Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Chris Galicki has a sick affection for that movie. He writes a lot of questions about it in Schmodown.
He really does.
Ton. He loves that movie.
It's just bad. It's just not anything. There's nothing to hold on to, latch onto. You don't care enough.
Well, they were trying to build towards this expanded universe thing, and so they were introducing all these villains. And the idea was eventually there was going to be a Sinister Six movie. And so the idea, right, was that you were going to have Electro and the Rhino, and eventually you were going to get
Dane DeHaan is in it.
Yeah, you were going to get Carnage. Yeah, Dane DeHaan is Hobgoblin, right?
Yeah.
So you were going to kind of get, or he's just called something. Like
it's
Goblin.
It says as Green Goblin.
Yeah, he's right. And he wasn't significant yet. So like they were building that whole Sinister Six movie thing, and it's just not good. It's a very bad movie. Now, because you just kind of gave the reveal. The second to worst movie?
It's definitely Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
And I still almost think it's worst because of the whole... Isn't that the one with the whole goth face?
Oh, the dancing?
That is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
This move when he's doing this dance move?
Yeah. I think that was literally the nail in Tobey Maguire's coffin for his career.
It's gifable. I mean,
it's like everything about it is completely horrible. And Topher Grace is really annoying in it as Eddie Brock. He's just like, you want, like, I know they wanted to make the villain kind of like weaselly and annoying,
right?
But like you just hate every scene that he's in.
Yeah, I agree.
And Franco's just like, I guarantee you, he's just like, just give me the money. Just let me get out of here.
06. I mean, or 07. There had been like a lot of arguments or discussions that Raimi was losing creative control, and he didn't want to make the movie the way they wanted to make him, and so he just started. Like a lot of that, I think, is intentional. He was making like a silly, stupid movie
just to be like F you to the studios.
That's what I've heard. I mean, I've heard that basically like the whole Dark Peter dancing stuff was all like intentionally dumb.
I mean,
it's really stupid.
It is, and you know, it's still the highest grossing Spider-Man film ever made.
Is it really?
That's what it says right here.
Over Homecoming.
Yeah.
Wow. That movie's bad. All right, second best.
Second best, I think you got to go. It's really tough because you know how much I love The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I think it is just Spider-Man 2. I think that's like such a sound movie. You've got the train, he pulls the train together.
Remember
and
his mask
really
comes off?
Yeah.
And no one says anything?
And that moment's like amazing.
It's a great moment.
Right? Like they all know they're going to, like they say something about it, like your secret's safe with us.
We got your back or something.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's great. It's like a really sweet moment. He saves the city. He almost dies. And like that's the other thing about Spider-Man is like he's not so invulnerable like Superman or even like Wolverine.
Yeah.
Up until Logan, obviously, R.I.P. Yeah. But like
he's not dead.
He's not dead. He's coming back. I'm coming back. Yeah. And the story with Doc Ock and his wife and what do you think about the ending? You know, where like the blowing up in the lab and the water and like
right.
You know, he's trying to.
Yeah. Right. I think. I mean, it's been a second since I've watched it. I'll be honest. I would have liked to have watched all of the Spider-Man movies in preparation for this, but
that's just impossible.
I remembered the second one pretty well. I mean, I remember liking the ending pretty well, which is, I think, a little bit why 3 is so bad, because it just doesn't. They don't continue anything. But like, I do just like Molina's turn. He's a very sympathetic villain.
Yeah,
he's almost as strong a villain as Schwarzenegger is Mr. Freeze. It's reminiscent. Sing louder. So then I would agree.
The Ice Age.
The Ice Age.
We should just do an episode on Mr. Freeze and how he's the greatest villain in any
oral history
movie.
of Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
That's my favorite scene. Which is why is he out there turning knobs?
That man is way too large to be working in this lab. Worldwide unadjusted, Spider-Man 3 made $890.9 million in 2007.
Wild.
10 years later, Homecoming made $880.2.
Just barely misses.
$10 million less 10 years later.
That's so crazy.
That's insane.
So number 3 for us then, which as you just alluded to a second ago, it's Amazing Spider-Man.
It's so good.
It's a strong movie. It's a very underrated movie by like because of what happened with Andrew Garfield, because of the way that his Spider-Man career was just kind of mashed into nothingness.
It was just made to fail.
It's just weird. That's the only example of it that I can think of in this modern age where it happened. It was in development, obviously, around the time Social Network came out. So you're talking 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
You're talking about, at that point, we were in this phase where the MCU was rolling, but they weren't great yet. Like, in 2010, when they start rolling with this.
If these Spider-Man movies were insanely good, it felt like they could keep it.
Yeah.
Like, to hijack it.
But like, as a lot of you guys know, you're working a couple years out. So if they're developing this movie in 2010, 2011, at that point, Avengers hasn't come out. That's the summer that Thor 1 and Captain America 1 come out. So they're pretty good.
Right.
Thor 1's bad. I mean, 2010 is Spider-Man 2.
I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 is as good as all of those things.
Sorry, Iron Man 2, which is bad. And yeah, I think people saw this in 2012 and were like, that was pretty good. I'd see the next one. Versus like just a couple years later by 2014, you've got Guardians, Winter Soldier. Like the MCU at that point is just dominating.
Astronomically better than any other superhero franchise out there other than The Dark Knight, which is separate anyway. And so Amazing Spider-Man, it's hard to sit there and say that it's any higher than third because, I mean, which is already like a great ranking. It's hard to say it's higher than third because it just had no impact on anyone. Totally. Even though we all like it, you talk to almost I don't know anyone that doesn't like The Amazing Spider-Man. A lot of people say they like, even if they don't love it, they'll say like, oh, I like the middle of it, or I like the beginning.
Or it's good enough.
It's good enough.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas like no one says that about Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
No, they're bad. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So then the last one we have here is Spider-Man 1. which is the fourth movie. So for our ranking, our definitive ranking would be Homecoming, Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2. And so for Spider-Man 1, it hits a couple different beats. And I can talk really quickly because this is now back to 2002.
Okay.
I remember seeing this movie in theaters in '02, a week before it came out. I got to go because I worked at a comic book store. So we got like sneak preview passes. The guy that ran another comic book store introduced the movie because it was like a big deal. There was a Spider-Man movie coming out. Like it was a big fucking deal. And I remember, I think it was for some reason I skipped something important. Might have been like Hebrew school. There was like something I was supposed to do, in 2002. I don't remember what it was.
You were a very busy man back then.
Yeah, I was 13 or 14 or something, but I got to skip it to go to a preview screening of Spider-Man. It was a really big deal.
Yeah, that's huge.
And all of it. I mean, you had your questions about his suit. It didn't look that cool.
Right.
It's kind of weird with the silver.
Yep.
But it was Spider-Man's really cool. And I thought it was pretty good.
And like the becoming the Spider-Man and the moments he has and Dafoe figuring out. There's always that moment in the Spider-Man movies where the villain figures out who Peter Parker is. Like he definitely needs to do a better job about hiding.
Yeah.
But I do, all those moments are really great. And as a kid, I was really excited.
And he gets yoked.
He does, real quick.
The overnight, which is cool. You're like, oh man, he can't fake that. He's really jacked.
Right. And not needing the glasses anymore was always huge for me because I wear glasses.
And we were little kids. We were 13. So the idea of becoming being a kid of our age, getting that yoked overnight was how would you ever get your body to look like that? Whereas today, it's if I want that, it will take me 6 months. I'll have to work every day at it.
I have to eat nothing delicious.
I know exactly how to do it.
Exactly how miserable I'm going to be.
And I'll be fucking miserable. Yep. But I can look like that if I want.
For a day.
Yeah.
Or 2 hours in one day.
Yeah.
And it's almost it almost feels wrong to put The Amazing Spider-Man in front of it.
Yeah.
But when I go back and watch both these movies, I enjoy The Amazing Spider-Man more. It's just less dated, whereas Spider-Man 1 just feels a little old. And again, Tobey Maguire just kind of sucks.
Yeah, and it's significant because of when it came out and what it was and what it meant. So
yeah, it was huge for it was the biggest thing in superhero movies in a long time.
Oh yeah, I mean it had been Blade in '98, X-Men in 2000, and this movie in 2002.
You know I love Blade.
Some motherfuckers is always trying to ice skate uphill. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up our definitive ranking of every Spider-Man film. We can't wait to watch Spider-Verse. Go see it in theaters.
Yeah.
Subscribe, comment, guys. That is literally the thing that you can do that will make this show succeed. We are right now, you're probably hearing this either as an audio download, so subscribe to that, or if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, comment, and to the Collider Podcasts the channel, the YouTube channel.
Podcast One, Apple Podcasts, and then please, as Ben just said, comment. Let us know what your list is. Do you agree with our 6? What are your favorite villains in the universe? Just we love reading the comments. We respond as much as we can. There's a lot of them, but yeah, do all those things, and you can always find me online at Andrew Ghai on Twitter and Instagram.
You guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram, and if you want additional content that we do every single week, go to patreon.com/Team Action. We do Schmodown, behind the scenes reactions, all kinds of cool shit there. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you same time, same place next week.
Bye.